Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the sixth class of our Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 study. We are picking up on Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narada's instructions to Vyasadeva. Um, how is my audio? Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay, good. And we're going to pick up on verse 12, and we'll start with a little kirtan. Okay, musicians audio. Great. So finding our seats, finding our breath, grounding in our breath, and finding our heart, calling out with gratitude to our teachers, the acharyas, those who paved the way for us to practice bhakti and are leading us closer and closer step by step, and for all the Vaishnavas, and for ultimate Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunilitangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasantubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Haribol Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare everybody Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna go to Haribol Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nita Gaura Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Jnanatimirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasantupya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Haribol. All right. Well, my favorite time of week is here. Tuesday nights. I get to be with all you eager ears and hearts. We had a number of really nice comments and reflections in the chat. And I hope that some of you will share that for those who aren't in the chat or those who've forgotten or aren't here. So we can refresh our memories. Yeah, anything that you reflected or that you saw and heard reflected from others. A lot of nice realizations this week. What did you hear from last week? Shakti.
Yeah, I was just going to I mean, in there and that I liked. But I guess what just connected with me is that I feel like I'm trying to read so many, but I want to get all of the nectar and the Shastra and the Bhagavatam and all of the um, I want to learn to, I want to be able to, know shlokas, and I do know some, but I want to know more. And you know what? Like when they talked about Vyasadeva, and he was talking about like really what was his qualification was his devotion.
Yeah.
It wasn't his, I can read off this Shastra and not his accomplishments, right? It was the devotion, and what was the other one? Anybody remember? It's on my thing here.
Yeah, he's glorified for like his sincerity and his service to his guru. Like his guru recognizes him as a sincere disciple, you know, and he's showing that by his surrender. So it's like it's not because he's incredibly powerful, although he is. He's remarkably empowered. That's not the qualification for the mercy to come. It's like you said, service, humility, surrender, devotion, a desire to be of service to others, compassion.
And intention, the intention. It's
Yeah,
like they can see that, and it's like, so I part of me is just say, you know what, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn it. I'm not gonna learn it all tomorrow. There's a lot to learn. But like my devotion and my intention, I know what that is. I know I'm chanting my 16 rounds, and I know that I'm doing them with love and compassion. So that's really what I need. And I know I'm serving my guru. I'm serving them. So like it's just like that was something for me personally that just stood out.
wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, nice. More reflections. It's okay to restate what you put in the
Yeah,
WhatsApp. Nancy.
yeah. I'm trying to stand back instead of always being the one that talks. So, but it really struck me how humble Vyasadeva was, that he didn't even recognize that his son Sukadev Goswami was a realized soul. That he's just sort of shocked because, and one of the things, and I had written it in the WhatsApp, was he may have been so consumed by trying to get all this produced, sort of not seeing the forest for the trees, because he was producing the Mahabharata, he was producing, the Vedas, that he was sort of lost in a place where he just sort of awakened at some place and said, well, what am I doing?
Mm,
So there's something really lacking here. There's something really missing here. And then he was humble enough to ask his guru, Narada, help me.
yeah,
Those are all beautiful, beautiful. It's a good example, that don't get for me not to get myself lost in the weeds, because I can do that too. And then all of a sudden I am missing the point of what I'm doing. So
wonderful. Yeah, it's always good to have this mode of like willing to be corrected, like open to higher guidance, and Vyasadeva definitely has that. And that comment also reminded me because you mentioned Shukadeva Goswami. The question came in the chat about Shukadev's status as liberated soul and Vyasadeva. I think maybe Pam asked that question. Yeah. The distinction that was there, because we see that Shukadev was in a mode of life where he was wandering naked, and so when he came upon and then walked by some women who were bathing, they didn't cover up their bodies when he walked by, but they did cover it up their bodies for Vyasadeva, his father. And the question is like, and Prabhupada mentions here, like an apparent difference in the level of transcendence there. The idea is that Vyasadeva he is a liberated soul, as is Shukadeva Goswami, but Vyasadev's in the world, right? He's operating according to the rules of society. He's still functioning in society. Shukadeva Goswami is not. Shukadeva Goswami is completely indifferent. He has no place in society. He's not a student monk. He's not a senior monk. He's not a married man. He's not a retired person. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't do anything but meditate on the Supreme. And as such, clothes and the distinction between female and male and old and young and naked and not naked, it means nothing to him. And it may mean nothing to a liberated soul who's functioning in the world, and nevertheless, they will function in the world according to the demands of the world, right? Like Srila Prabhupada wore clothes, and like Lord Chaitanya and all these associates, while they're in the world, they function that way in order to set an example. Although, for in and of itself, these distinctions don't necessarily mean anything to a liberated soul anymore. But somehow the ladies recognized that this person is not part of society. He's not looking at us like a woman, like a man looks at a woman. Now Vyasadeva, although liberated, has to function as a man, and he's functioning in society. So then they could recognize that. Because he's still very much doing responsible service in a societal context. So that's the distinction. Does it make sense? No?
I'm so confused. So Vyasadeva it said he was liberated but not transcendental.
Well, he's not transcendental to the rules and regulations. He's functioning within them because he's still in society. As a matter of decision, he's functioning within society. His service requires him. He's married. He's writing. He's living in the world. Shukadeva Goswami is not really living in any society. He has no obligation to anybody. He doesn't fulfill any role. As long as you're fulfilling a role in society and you're opting in, you have a certain responsibility to like wear clothes and like, just whatever. But Shukadeva Goswami is not. He's not part of society. He's outside the entire system.
Okay, but this was his son.
Yeah, his son, right. Shukadeva Goswami, is outside the system. Therefore, and the women recognize that. He's just wandering, So
if his father is a householder and whatever, he gets born to him, how does he get to be transcendental? The son.
There's a backstory there that when his mother was pregnant with him, he heard the Bhagavatam. He heard transcendental sound vibration, and he was liberated in the womb. And so it'll come up. But he was liberated from birth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now maybe it makes more sense, but now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting.
It's a detail, but an interesting one. Okay. Any other reflections before we jump in? All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay. Narayanang namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam deving saraswating vyasam tato jayamudirayeet. Nashtaprayeshu padarishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. So we're continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. So Narada has given instructions. Well, what he's done so far is he's glorified Vyasadeva's work, and he said he's done so much. Inquired about his despondency. Vyasa has admitted his dissatisfaction, and he's glorified his guru, saying, you're like the sun. You're all-pervading like air and the sun and the super soul. You can understand my deficiency. And so Narada Muni in verses 8 and 9 pointed out two defects. One is that Vyasadeva insufficiently glorified the Lord. And two was that he put too much emphasis or more emphasis on the four material goals of life. Kama, Artha, Dharma, Moksha. The gratification of the senses, accumulation of wealth, performance of religious activities, and liberation from matter. And so in verses 10 and 11, we have this compare and contrast. Like the verse 10 talked about how words which don't describe the glories of the Lord are not actually considered to be, they're not, people don't derive any pleasure from them. The transcendental persons don't derive any pleasure there. But that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, etc., of the Lord is, quote, a different creation full of different transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Prabhupada quotes this verse at the beginning of his commentary on Bhagavatam in like the introduction or preface as justification for him commenting, because he's saying, even though it's not perfect, I may have made mistakes, maybe imperfections. Still, I'm hopeful that the saintly persons will accept this because of the sincerity of my purpose. And Narada Muni actually said that this is accepted. The sincere attempt to glorify the Lord's name, fame, forms, and pastimes is accepted by the topmost people. So now, the next few verses, the value and the relative value of bhakti is really clarified for us. So if you look at it, verse 12 says, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? The point here is that Narada is saying, even if one understands that they're not matter and they become transcendental to matter, recognize that they're spiritual in nature, if that's in the Sanskrit, achuta bhava, if there's no achuta bhava, if there's no feeling, there's no emotion in there, no spiritual emotion, there's no love for that source, then it's not beautiful. It's actually not the highest register. It doesn't fully satisfy. And then he says, what to speak of material activities, which are actually just useless from beginning to end. Like just being attached to matter for its own sake, that's completely out of the question. But even to be liberated, but not have feeling for the Lord, doesn't fully satisfy, he's saying here, right? It's not beautiful. It's not complete. Verse 13. O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Verse 14 is very poetic, it's very nice. It says, whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind, as a wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Just like if a boat is on water and there's no anchor, then whatever wind comes will push it around, right? And the nature of the mind is that it's a little sponge. We know that. And people develop their attractions and aversions by previous association, and then they become impelled and move towards whatever they're attracted to and away from whatever they're averse to, and they create more activities which create more results. And so all this is possible because of a differential kind of vision, an idea of duality, idea of something, anything as being separate from source. And if we set aside, Krishna, God, set aside source and just go after some aspect of Krishna's energy, as if he doesn't exist, then the mind just becomes agitated, and we become agitated. And Narada's calling this out, that, he'll elaborate. He says in the next verse, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you've encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. Enjoy here means like enjoy their senses, right? Try to enjoy matter. And you've encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. This is a very interesting point. The Prabhupada's purport, he says here, Vyasadev's compilation of different Vedic literature on the basis of regulated performance of fruitive activities, regulated performance of karmic activities, is condemned here by Sri Narada. The human beings, by long material association life after life, have a natural inclination, by practice, to endeavor to lord it over material energy. That means to try to become the master, to try to own and enjoy the material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. This human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to reestablish their lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. Prabhupada kind of elaborates on this principle of like the different purposes of scripture at different times. He said, at a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, such as sacrificing animals in the name of yagya, yagya means sacrifice, were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh eaters still continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literatures such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten, and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. That is because foolish materialistic persons do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. So, the injunctions of Scripture, when they refer to like how to live in the world and how to deal with matter, like for example, what to eat, how to like it talks about, every scripture in the world talks about, like for example, making a responsible choice to be committed to somebody and be in a relationship. If you desire a union with another person, don't be indiscriminate, right? All these kinds of injunctions, they're there to regulate the senses, right? Which means like, okay, you have to eat. How do you eat in such a way as to minimize the amount of karma you create for yourself? How do you eat in such a way that you can gratify the senses that are asking to be gratified, but also not create more problems? So there are injunctions in the Vedas for killing animals and eating them, even though it's not good karma. It's not good for you. But it's not good for the animal either. But the way that those injunctions are organized, they are presented in such a way as one is designed to help one understand the consequences of their actions. So they don't just like do whatever they feel like doing. If they decide they want to eat animals, they have to kill it themselves. They have to actually like face up to the reality of taking a life of a higher animal, a mammal, and they have to actually utter a mantra. And the mantra indicates like what's happening to you now may happen to me again in the future. And I'm subjecting myself to the possibility of this kind of violence. And these kinds of regulations that are there in every tradition ultimately can be used and abused. So somebody can take something in isolation from scripture and say, oh, look, it says here you can kill an animal. So let's create like a mass system for killing animals because it's right here, right? Meanwhile, the whole purpose of that section was to minimize suffering, to minimize violence, and to gradually rectify the tendency to behave in that way so that people gradually let go of lower things, right? And similarly, for all the different kinds of ways of gratifying the senses, spiritual traditions try to regulate them as stepping stones. But taken in isolation, someone can take a stepping stone and say, oh, this is it. This is the highest thing. The highest thing is to perform this kind of sacrifice and get married and have kids or whatever. Different kinds of regulated activities are offered and prescribed in Scripture. So that's what Narada is condemning here. That's what he is saying. This is not good. People have a natural tendency to try to enjoy through their senses only, and you've given them license to look at the Scripture with tunnel vision and to say that that's the goal, and that's not good, because that's not the goal. Prabhupada's pointing out the goal is to actually get free and get beyond all of this and go back home, back to Krishna, back to Source. So last paragraph of the purport, he says, a patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept edibles which are forbidden for them. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing them to take partially what they should not take at all. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a person attached to fruit of work should not be discouraged from their occupation, for gradually they may be elevated to the position of self-realization. So this gradual elevation is discussed. That's part of the purpose of the scriptures. But if there is no goal given, then if people lose sight of the goal, that gradual elevation, people just become obsessed with the system. They may create like a very rigid, you get like a caste system, you get like different kinds of structures of society, you get aspects of religion that are very ritualistic, very to the rules and regulations, obsessed with purity, but one loses the point. The point isn't purity. The point isn't to become to a higher status of life. The point is to come back to Godhead. So Narada is saying, you've given them all these paths. You've given them all these instructions, but the way you've presented it is in such a way they've lost track of what the goal is. Right? And because of their own natural inclinations, their own default settings, because they're conditioned souls, they're just going to take and use and abuse the same injunctions you're presenting to regulate them. They're going to use that and justify their own activities as if that's the goal. No good. So he continues. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness, Vyasadeva, through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Right? One who has forsaken their material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of their being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, although fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. This is very interesting. So, there's the question of progress. And so, Narada Muni's pointing out here, if you take things to their logical conclusion, look at what it's like. If somebody leaves all their regulated material activities behind to perform bhakti, to actually practice devotional service, if they give all that up so they can practice devotional service, but they can't finish their devotional service, they don't become perfect in it, they don't develop pure love of God, still they get benefit. But on the other hand, somebody who does the opposite, 100% perfect fulfillment of all their material duties, 0% advancement in their bhakti, in their relationship with God. Narada is saying, what have they actually accomplished? Right? This is like using, like exaggerating things to the extent of seeing what happens if we take this to the furthest limit and compare. And Prabhupada points out in the purport, it sometimes happens that one surrenders themselves unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to so many other reasons, they fall down from the path of service by undesirable association. But in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down, because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, they will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. Right? And so how does that work? The next couple of verses clarify this. Next verse says, persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable, even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time. Just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. Right? Again, comparing and contrasting different situations. On the one hand, there's all the kinds of experiences you can have in the world, all worldly experience. On the other hand, there is what is available not from the interaction of the sense objects with their senses. And Narada is saying, persons who are actually wise don't endeavor for anything in this world. And as far as the pleasure of the world is concerned, it automatically comes, right? It actually, some of it's going to come anyway. Just like no one sits around thinking like, boy, I really hope I get sick this year, right? 2026, I hope I catch a cold at some point. No one says that. No one feels that. And yet, pretty much everyone's going to get a cold. They're going to get sick. They're going to have some illness. They'll have a headache. They're going to have something, right? It comes. And so do they have to work for it? No. It's just part of the deal. And similarly, it's also part of the deal that if you function in the world, particularly if you function in a regulated way, you're going to have some happiness. You don't have to work so hard for that. That shouldn't be the goal, right? That's the point he's making here. One should make that the goal. This came up in the second chapter where it was said, well, let's look up the exact Sanskrit because, and translation because I don't have to paraphrase that way. 1:2:10. One's life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works, right? And I gave the example of like, eat to live, don't live to eat. Like it's going to be there anyway. You're going to have some gratification of the senses, but don't make that the goal. Don't put that in front of everything, and then everything else is a servant of that. Have that be secondary. Have it be understood. It's going to come. It's always there, but don't make that the goal. Endeavor for that happiness that can't be obtained. Even if you wander up and down in all the different planetary systems, you can never find Krishna. You can never find spiritual happiness just from matter. So endeavor for that. And then he solidifies his point in the next verse about how the advancement is permanent. He says, "My dear Vyasadeva, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down, somehow or other, they certainly do not undergo material existence like others, karmic or fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again." Very interesting point. And the purport, he says, Prabhupada does, "Even though they fall down, a devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. The sufferings of an orphan and the sufferings of a beloved child of a king are not one and the same. An orphan is really poor because they have no one to take care of them. But a beloved son of a rich man, although he appears to be on the same level as the orphan, is always under the vigilance of his capable father. A devotee of the Lord, due to wrong association, sometimes imitates the fruitive workers." That means karmic workers. The karmic workers want to lord it over the material world. Similarly, a neophyte devotee foolishly thinks of accumulating some material power in exchange for devotional service. Such foolish devotees are sometimes put into difficulty by the Lord himself. As a special favor, he may remove all material paraphernalia. By such action, the bewildered devotee is forsaken by all friends and relatives, and so they come to their senses again by the mercy of the Lord and are set to execute their devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that such fallen devotees are given a chance to take birth in a family of highly qualified Brahmins or in a rich mercantile family. The idea here is that even if one practices devotional service and leaves, stops practicing, they're like, this is too hard, I give up, or they become intoxicated again with the material energy and trying to enjoy it in one way or another. It can happen, right? It can happen. Their advancement is permanent. I gave the example, the analogy of a bank account. I think it might have been in our Bhagavad Gita classes. That spiritual advancement is like this bank account. And any balance there is permanently there. It's like you can add drops and drops and drops to the bucket. Drops, okay, you chanted Bhagavad Gita, okay, there's a drop. You chanted some japa, there's a drop. You appreciated devotees, drop, drop, drop. And it builds up. And at the end of one's life, all of one's material advancement, do you take it with you? Do you take any of that with you? Do you take your money? Do you take your body? I can't even take my young body with me. I'm not even dead yet. There's already so much I've lost in this life. My hairline, my youthful vigor, right? It's like it's always being taken away. Your fame, can you take your fame with you? You become the most popular person in the universe. Can you take that with you when you die? No. All the material advancement is gone. All of it. It's all down to zero. But your spiritual advancement is with you. That's right there in the heart. Right? So what the point is here is that any advancement we make in terms of becoming attracted to the divine person, developing a relationship with Krishna, knowing him, anytime we saw even a glimmer of him, became a little attracted, that drop in the bucket adds up, and you start from there again. You don't start from less than that. When you're a baby, you have to start from zero again, right? You might have some karmic credit. You might have like some, Mozart. He clearly did something to justify being born with musical genius. But basically, you still gotta like tease and breastfeed and wear diapers. You gotta start from zero again. But spiritually, You don't have to. You start from wherever you were. And in the commentary to this verse, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he talks about this phenomenon. He calls it rasa graha, which means to be haunted by rasa. Rasa means taste. If one tastes even one time Krishna, the sweetness of Krishna, they're haunted by that. Even if they're like, that's it, I give up, they can't forget it, right? Like the material analogy is like if you take some kind of incredible drug and it's like you're addicted, you're always chasing that high. The idea is that there's nothing that you can have through gratifying the senses, just living a material life, that can compare to experiencing Krishna. So if you experience him even one time, you're going to be haunted like by a ghost. You'll never forget. In this life you'll remember, and in the next life you'll remember. There's something higher. So this is a very important point because Narada is giving this transcendental logic. Vyasadeva, don't be so concerned with getting everybody to live like regulated lifestyles and perform their material duties perfectly. That's good, but any advancement they make spiritually, they make forever. Any advancement they make materially is only temporary. And if they try to advance spiritually in their relationship with Krishna, with Source, but they don't get perfect yet, that's still okay. But look at the opposite. If they become perfect, the perfect husband or wife, mother, father, son, daughter, citizen, what does that do? What does it accomplish? What is their eternal benefit? So he's using this logic to help Vyasadeva understand what he has to do. Verse 21. Here is a direct instruction. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the supersoul personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly. There's an instruction. Glorify the Lord more directly and more vividly. Nice verse here, verse 22. Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry. Nice purport. Prabhupada talks about the higher aspirations of human life. He says, human intellect is developed for advancement of learning in art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, economics, politics, etc. By such culture of knowledge, the human society can attain perfection of life. This perfection of life culminates in the realization of the Supreme Being, Vishnu. Those who are entrapped by Vishnu Maya, the energy, the external energy of the Lord, utilize advancement of knowledge for sense enjoyment. Narada Muni has explained that all paraphernalia of the universe is but an emanation from the Lord out of his different energies, because the Lord has set in motion, by his inconceivable energy, the actions and reactions of the created manifestation. They have come to be out of his energy, they rest on his energy, and after annihilation they merge into him. Nothing is therefore different from him, but at the same time the Lord is always different from them. When advancement of knowledge is applied in the service of the Lord, the whole process becomes absolute. The personality of Godhead and his transcendental name, fame, glory, etc. are all known and different from him. Therefore, all the sages and devotees of the Lord have recommended that the subject matter of art, science, philosophy, physics, chemistry, psychology, and all other branches of knowledge should be wholly and solely applied in the service of the Lord. Art, literature, poetry, painting, etc. may be used in glorifying the Lord. The fiction writers, poets, and celebrated litterateurs are generally engaged in writing of sensuous subjects, but if they turn toward the service of the Lord, they can describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Similarly, science and philosophy also should be applied in the service of the Lord. There is no use presenting dry speculative theories for sense gratification. Philosophy and science should be engaged to establish the glory of the Lord. Advanced people are eager to understand the absolute truth through the medium of science, and therefore a great scientist should endeavor to prove the existence of the Lord on a scientific basis. We can see, like with Sir Isaac Newton, a genius in the field of science, he was a very pious Christian who had a lot of faith in God, and in his own words, he entered the scientific realm to measure and describe the glory of God in manifesting the universe, because he considered that the universe and the material world, which was what he's measuring as a scientist, was just an extension of God's creation, right? It didn't come from nothing. It didn't come from a big bang with no person behind it. It came from God. So he thought, okay, if that's true, then let's glorify him by understanding it better. That that kind of consciousness can be contrasted with the empirical model of like looking at, how does Prabhupada put it? As always, Prabhupada's so poetic. He says, there is no use presenting dry, speculative theories for sense gratification. You know, you make some theories, like here's a Shamipra's theory, and it got me published, you know? And it's like my unique take on whatever, chemistry or physics or who knows. And it's like, for what? For pride? Right? No. You should, if you're going to be a scientist, then great. Understand that you're glorifying some corner of the creation that has come from the creator. And then your science is actually quite relevant. There's a beautiful quote about this. Let's see if I can find it for you. Oh, this is a nice one. Yeah, there it is. Heisenberg. Werner Heisenberg. He created Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. This is something found in chemistry or physics. The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. Right? In the early 20th century and before, it was quite common for scientists to function in this way and to be open with their own devotional propensities. It's since fallen out of favor. And Prabhupada is saying that's a loss. Because this verse is saying that's the point of science. The point of science is not separate from glorifying God. It's a function of it. Poetry, art, all these things, they're part of human society. They're the higher parts, right? Like, life isn't just about putting food in your belly and gratifying, like you're sleeping or gratifying your genitals or living like an animal. There's higher things. So these higher things that Prabhupada is listing, the verse is listing, they're best when applied in relationship with the Lord. And then they become truly spiritual. Real utilization of advanced knowledge is to establish the glories of the Lord, and that is the real import. Scientific knowledge engaged in the service of the Lord and all similar activities are all factually Hari Kirtana, or glorification of the Lord. They're actually Kirtan. It's actually Kirtan if you use your scientific powers to glorify the nature of Krishna's creation. And you see it that way and you describe it that way. Let's pause here. That's a nice kind of break between the next one section and the next section. Let's take any questions, reflections, or comments, anything you heard so far that stood out before we go into the next section of the chapter. What did you hear? Laura?
Well, thank you, Haribol. When you were talking about eating to live, not living to eat,
Right.
There's so much of our practice in my life where I feel like I've got it under control, not drinking alcohol and not eating animals anymore and all of this. But I'm realizing like I'm still succumbing to that, the food so much. Like I'm planning a big birthday party for my partner and it's driving me nuts. It's all about the food and it's not about the party and the celebration and the food. One of my services is I cook and prepare food for a retreat in the summer, and it consumes like a few months of my life, and it's like, wow, I really am getting consumed with the food and taking center stage. And so I really appreciated you saying that, and also, and additionally about the spiritual advancement, like, wherever we are, we pick up there at the next life and stuff. And I certainly hope, none of us lose this in this life, but even just thinking about it, that wherever we are, and it just gives some more umph to me and a little bit more fire under me to keep going more and more and more this life, so that at the next one, hopefully I'll be up the next step. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, food is, the tongue and the belly are very powerful. Um, the devotional science is so helpful because it really guides us to become trained in trying to gratify the senses of the Lord, right? Like I've seen it, when I was a monk, I helped serve out feasts. I helped cook feasts. I ate a lot of feasts, and I was part of the serve out crew. I actually headed up the serve out crew, the Sunday feast, which is the biggest feast of the week. We fed like 200 people every week, right? And we had one cook in particular. This is true of all of them, but one in particular really stands out for me. He would cook for hours, and he would clean as he went. And so when he was done, he stepped out of the kitchen. It was cleaner than when he walked in. He'd cooked a 9 or 10 course feast of first class, outstandingly well made prasadam for Krishna. It was offered to Radha Govinda, Radha and Krishna on the altar, and then it was served to everybody. And after he cooked it, he walked out of there, didn't even taste it, and just went home. He was fully satisfied. He was so full from giving. There's the expression Prabhupada gives somewhere. He says, like, somebody who serves, who sells sweets for a living, they don't have a sweet tooth, right? Because it's all day, every day for them. They live in they're in like a baker shop, or they're selling danishes and chocolate. Like they don't have a sweet tooth anymore because their whole life is giving it to others. So our purpose in cooking is fundamentally and we have to keep the body going, right? You have to eat, but don't worry, you're gonna eat. Like no one goes hungry in this movement. You try to gratify Krishna's senses. Think about how much you can enjoy food. It's like I can enjoy food about like whatever, a plate much. Like I can have like 3 pieces of bread and then I'm done. That's about all I can enjoy. How big is Krishna's belly? How big is Krishna's tongue? How much can he enjoy? How perfect are his senses, right? Think about trying to please him, and whenever you cook for him, cook for him. Have your food be an offering for him. Cook food in the mode of goodness and offer it for him. And then you can be like trying to make the nicest things ever and going out of your way for the most, elaborate arrangements of the topmost ingredients, because then it's not for you anymore. It's for Krishna. If that's honestly your meditation, you will find that it's a yogic activity. That cooking will become a yogic activity for you. Cooking mode of goodness food for Krishna, for his pleasure, you can go to the ends of the earth. I've seen devotees do this. When I was in the ashram, they're like, did you get any more of that Iranian saffron, Shami Pras? We want that first class saffron for the dessert, because the best saffron in the world grows in Iran. So whenever my family would come over from Iran, they would give me some saffron, and I would pass it on to the cooks in Radha Govinda's kitchen. They'd be like, here it is. We're going to make saffron sweet rice. They're just hankering, but not for them, for Krishna, because they want him to taste the best of everything. And then after you offer it, you distribute it. And you can have some too, right? Your little tiny belly can get full, no problem. No problem. Krishna's got you covered. So it's all about like putting his pleasure first, and then it becomes like very satisfying. Otherwise, if you're like a yogi without any realization of the Supreme, it's like you're just gritting your teeth there on a mountaintop. Can't think about sweet rice. Not supposed to enjoy. It's Maya. It's all illusion. Like where's the joy in that? It doesn't work, right? So that's not our process. Our process is to overwhelmingly satisfy Krishna's senses, and then you can have some of the overflow yourself, right? So we have like beautiful kirtan and unbelievably beautiful decorated, deities and the best incense in the world and the most incredible food. Like it's all there, but it's for Krishna, right? So we're not sitting there like thinking, oh, here I am, king of the universe, eating this feast for me. That's a difference, right? So yeah. Hare Krishna. We had more, I think. I think I saw someone else's hand. Tanya.
I just loved in the beginning of class how you had said if there's no spiritual emotion,
Yeah.
then there's no love. And looking at what we read last week, and Narda talking to Vyasadeva about all the writing that he's done is, what better way to, elicit emotion and have all readers, no matter where they're from, what level, where they're coming from, fall in love.
Right.
So write about Krishna, write about his Leelas, go, write the Srimad Bhagavatam, because we want everyone to fall in love. And
Give him a chance
we
to get
all
some
fall
feeling
in
from
love with a character that's well developed, and we all get to experience what they experience. Not to mention Krishna.
it. Yeah. Yeah, what he actually said was Naish karma apyachute bhava varjitang na shobhate jnanam alang niranjanam, which means that liberation, if it's devoid of any feeling for the Lord, doesn't satisfy. So this whole gradual path, even if you get all the way to liberation, if there's no bhakti, if there's no feeling for the Lord, what have you really accomplished? The heart's still hankering. So yes, that's part of his transcendental logic. Therefore, you must glorify Krishna directly. That's the best service you could do for people. You're trying to serve everybody, but if you're not giving them Krishna, then there's that hole. You don't feel like you've really helped them because you haven't given them the greatest thing yet. There's still the highest charity to give. Someone asked Srila Prabhupada, "What have you come to the West for?" I've come to give. I've come to give the greatest thing. He joked. He said, in England one time, somebody asked him, "Why have you come here, Swamiji?" And he said, "Because you Britishers, you came to India and you pillaged and you took all the great treasures, but you forgot one treasure, the greatest treasure, and I've come to give that one to you. It's the treasure of bhakti," right? Your British Empire missed that one. I've come to return and give it to you. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
I was just going to add that I think that without this, you can see where the Vedas would lead people to worship the demigods, looking for material benefit without the realization that Krishna's fine with you worshiping a demigod as long as you realize that you're really ultimately worshiping him. But it may, the Vedas, how they were presented without this really would have caused more hankering for material success.
Yeah, and we have our own. The thing is, people aren't like neutral. They have their own momentum. As Narada said, they're already naturally inclined to try to enjoy through their senses. So we misuse the statements of Scripture to justify. And it happens all the time, right? Whether it's like, you know, getting people to blow themselves up to get their 40 virgins in heaven, or just like twisted, manipulative. Oh, well, I'm a good person because this says so, and oh, this justifies me behaving this way. It becomes a tool. Narada's criticizing using religion as a tool for our own goals, because the purpose of religion is to redefine our goals, not to use it as a vehicle to fulfill our already very petty existing material goals. Find something higher. Let that something higher be presented to you, right? And if Vyasadeva didn't do a direct enough job of presenting that higher goal, people won't have an idea of it. And they'll just use the statements to justify their existing, very low, very petty, insignificant goals, sex, money, the same old garbage, right? So Narada's like, nah, don't do that. That's not merciful. That's not real care. All right, let's keep reading. We'll have more time for reflections in a bit. Up to verse 23. So now, something very interesting happens here. We've heard Narada give the transcendental logic of why bhakti is greater, how the advancement is eternal, and why Vyasadeva should directly glorify the Lord. Now he talks about himself. He gives his own life story. This is a very beautiful thing. He talks about who he was before he became Narada Muni. Narada Muni is actually, he's living in a spiritual body. His body is not made of matter. He's a perfectly transcendental, pure devotee who travels everywhere through the spiritual worlds and the material worlds, sharing bhakti. He's actually a special incarnation of the Lord, empowered as a devotee. He's empowered to share bhakti, right? And he wasn't always that way. So he talks about his previous existence and how he became who he is now. Verse 23, O Muni, O sage, in the last millennium I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. So during the rainy season in India, for up to 4 months, people will stay where they are because the rain is like, it's not rain, it's a monsoon. You hunker down. And so he and his mother, he didn't know his father. He was the son of a maidservant, a very simple woman. They hosted and took care of these devotees. Although they were impartial by nature, these followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. So he was a curious, intelligent child, and not particularly distracted as the way children can be. He was actually kind of present, enough to receive what they had to give. Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart. And at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. In the purport, Prabhupada talks about the power of eating the remnants of food ingested by great devotees. The dust of their feet, the remnants of their food, these things are quite purifying. And the boy, he considered himself like their servant, and he behaved like their servant, and he was very humble. And in that culture, if to take somebody else's food, like the remnants of, after they finished eating, to take the remnants of their food, is a way of signifying that I am your junior. I am like under you. I'm your servant, right? A servant will eat the remnants of their master's food, not the other way around. It's a very like heartfelt symbol of like submission and respect, that you're so great, I glorify that which you've left behind. Whatever you have not even finished, I consider that wonderful and excellent. And so he had such love for his teachers that he behaved in this way, and with their permission he took their remnants, and his heart became purified. Now, when you're hearing this, think back to chapter 2 of this canto, when we heard about how by serving the devotees, the heart becomes purified and you develop a desire to hear. And by hearing, the heart gets more purified and you come out of the lower modes of nature, right? These different stages of bhakti. So again, we have a reiteration of that same philosophy of the stages of bhakti. They're the same stages. First he associated, he did some service. Then he desired to hear, right? But now, instead of it being in abstraction, it's very concrete, it's crystallized in the life of one person. This is the power, as Tanya was saying earlier, the power of pastimes. It's like, it's one thing to talk about like, life is like this and this is how it works, blah, 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 abstract knowledge. But as soon as the teacher's like, you know what? I'm on a level with you. Let me tell you something about my own life. Everyone's ears perk up, right? Everyone's like, oh, this is interesting, because now it's real. Now you can look somebody in the eye and hear them talk about themselves. And there's something different about that. It hits different, even if it's the same point. So the same point that was made in abstraction in chapter 2, Narada Muni is making again through the anecdote of how his own life unfolded. O Vyasadeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. He served the devotees, his heart became attracted to hearing. Now he wants to hear more. His taste is increasing at every step. And that hearing is purifying him more and more. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings. For both the Lord and I are transcendental. He was not Narada Muni yet, he was just a boy, a conditioned soul. But by association, he got a desire to hear. By hearing, his heart got purified. By his heart getting purified, he realizes Krishna more and more, and he starts to recognize what is real and what is not. He realizes that only in ignorance had I accepted gross and subtle coverings. He starts to see his own conditioning and how it's separate from his real self, right? This is also something that happens for us in our bhakti practice. We realize, oh yeah, I'm not my personality. I'm not like my likes and dislikes. There are things that I've picked up. Only in my ignorance have I accepted them as my eternal self. Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great-souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished. Again, this was there exactly, almost word for word in the 2nd chapter. You can become free from passion and ignorance, the 2 lower modes. But it's happening in his life, right? This is a very powerful form of like teaching. It's like, I guess you would call it like teaching by example, or teaching by there's almost a better word for it, but he's indicating, like, anecdotally, this is what happened for me, you know? Like, you know, when you want to buy something and you're like, well, does it really work? You read the reviews. What are they called? Consumer reviews is like another word for it. There's like a anyway, it's kind of like the perfect word, but it's like, yeah, there's somebody writes a review and they tell you what their experience was like. Yeah, you know, the Shamia 2005, you know, sandwich maker is perfect. I couldn't make a peanut butter sandwich to save my life, and after I bought it, I made the perfect peanut butter sandwiches. And you read that, you're like, oh, interesting. Yeah, it worked for them. Oh, your diet worked for you. It could work for me, right? Like, we always do this. We talk about how things went for our life. Like, oh yeah, you got to go to that store. Like, I got the perfect, you know, suit and tie. You'll love it, you know. Narada Muni's doing this, but he's doing it about spiritual things. He's giving personal example. Testimonial, that's the word. He's giving a testimonial. He's testifying. They say this in certain churches. They testify about the Lord. Talk about how he's moved you in your life. Narada Muni's testifying. He's giving testimony. What did it do for me, this bhakti process, right? Don't forget why he's doing this. He's doing this because he made the point. People need this and it will help them. And now he's showing, it helped me. It actually helped me, your own guru, right? This is really powerful, by the way, because people, when we see this, people they appreciate abstract knowledge, but they're really moved when they meet somebody and they learn about how that same thing they're learning about actually changed them, right? Like, imagine what it feels like for Vyasadeva to be in front of his guru. Imagine what it would feel like to be in front of Prabhupada. Imagine that. Or Narada Muni. Or Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And any devotee that you have met that you really admire, what does it feel like to be in the room with them, right? Like just Radhanath Swami, Vaisheshika Prabhu, one of these great devotees. There's something about them. And if they open their mouth and like, listen, I'm going to tell you about what it was like for me when I was a kid and I came into bhakti, or I met the devotees, and what it was like for me when I started my practice, then you're like, oh my God, you've been through what I've been through, getting through like the modes of nature, like then your ears perk up, then you really become attracted. That's what was happening for Vyasadeva now. Vyasadeva is not just being told, you should do this, you didn't do it right, you did it wrong, do it like this. No, yeah, that happened. And Narada is saying, check it out, I'm going to level with you. This is what it was like for your own guru to come to bhakti. Your own guru who you worship as an expansion of God, come here to help you. I came to bhakti. I was a kid, right? I was the son of a single mother. She raised me, and we took care of devotees for 4 months. I listened with them, and it purified my heart, made all the difference. So this like story, Prabhupada did this too. He talked about his childhood, talked about his challenges, very like humbly, talking about things that we can relate to, right? Not just when he's Prabhupada, the world acharya. Prabhupada, the like married man. Prabhupada, the father of 3. Prabhupada, the like business owner. And this is a really powerful pedagogical thing. It's an incredible way of teaching. It's an incredible way of making a point. So sometimes people ask, like, how can I help people come to bhakti? And the answer is like, well, there's a lot of things you can do. And Bhagavatam will teach you, because Bhagavatam is showing different ways of teaching. And this chapter is one of my favorites, because Narada Muni is already showing us like 3 different ways. The first way was like, okay, he waited for Vyasadeva to speak up and mention like, what's the deal? What's wrong with him? Second, he glorified him and praised him for the work he has done, but then he said, actually, since you're asking, you didn't do enough to glorify Krishna directly. He cut him down, very clear, very direct instruction. And third of all, he's teaching by example, by testimony. Really powerful for all the educators out there, for those who want to share bhakti, or parents or teachers, or they ask like, how can I, influence my family and friends. Like, well, why don't you show them who you're becoming by practicing bhakti? That speaks way louder than any sermon, right? So Narada's doing that. Narada's doing that. I was very much attached to those sages, verse 29. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. Remember, sin means any accumulated karma that keeps us away from our relationship with Krishna, anything that results in attachment or aversion to matter. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who were very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Sri Krishna, by knowing that one can return to him and personally meet him. O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And then there's a nice verse 33 is one of my favorites. He says, O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Right? So what is he talking about? He's talking about action, karma. Right? If our action creates our bondage in this world, then our action can free us if it's used in service. The example is like you're getting a thorn out with a thorn. If you get a thorn in your hand, or a splinter, if you get the right kind of splinter, you can use that to get the other splinter out. Right? Or in the purport, Prabhupada talks about how in Ayurveda, if you eat too much paneer, you eat too much like heavy milk preparations, butter, ghee, paneer, you can have an upset stomach. What's the solution? The solution is based in yogurt. You have certain yogurt preparations, it helps you digest and get over the indigestion you've had, the acid buildup from, overindulgence. But what is yogurt? Yogurt is just basically milk. It's basically a transformation of milk. So the same thing applied therapeutically can solve the problem caused by itself. So he's given the logic here to justify you need to help people to take that propensity to be karmically involved, to do stuff, to make goals, to hit goals, to like create some result, and show them how to use it in service. Just like I was talking earlier, if somebody has a sweet tooth, then go out of your way to make the most beautiful desserts for Krishna. And that'll cure your sweet tooth, I promise you, right? That's the exact same principle here. Because it's purified, it's completely used in Krishna's service. Verse 34, thus when all a person's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which cause their perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called bhakti yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. What is called knowledge becomes the concomitant factor. That's a nice little definition of yoga. What's bhakti yoga? Bhakti yoga is whatever work is done for satisfying the mission of the Lord. And knowledge is a concomitant factor, means knowledge comes out of it as a secondary result. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, one constantly remembers him, his name and his qualities. And then in verse 38, he glorifies the process of hearing. Iti murtyapitanena mantra murtim amurtikam, which means the easiest way to worship the Lord, the easiest form. He says, thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound vibration the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Vishnu, who has no material form. This is a verse one of the many verses that points out that the efficacy and the ease of worshiping the sonic form of the Lord, the mantra form. These are actually deities. The Hare Krishna mantra is a deity. Govinda Jaya Jaya is a deity. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is a deity. What is the form of the deity? Like so this deity is made with wood, Lord Chaitanya. Some deities are made with brass, right? Some with metal, some with sand, Some are written down on a piece of paper, some in the mind. What is a deity's form? Sonic. The sonic deity. This verse is saying it's the easiest way. The way to appreciate the form of the Lord without difficulty. It's very difficult to purify the mind to appreciate the personal form of the Lord, but it becomes relatively quite easy if we take shelter of sound yoga, sonic yoga. which is why this Bhakti Yoga system, it's based on these verses. It's based on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's based on Lord Chaitanya's mercy. It's completely in line with this logic that it's based on chanting Hare Krishna. We get together, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we're like, wow, that's mysteriously attractive. It really, I thought it might be over by now, but it's still mysteriously attractive. It's just something about it. And we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, which itself is pointing out it is itself an incarnation of the Lord in this age to help us. And these sound vibrations actually, Prabhupada gives the logic here. He says, a person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague, impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras, or transcendental sound representations. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master, and the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. Hare Krishna. All right, let's finish this chapter here. Last verse. Please, therefore, describe the Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned persons and, at the same time, mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. It'll be good for the liberated and good for the entangled. Good for the devotees and good for those who are not devotees yet. It'll relieve their miseries. It'll help them find the right path. And that is the 5th chapter. Hare Krishna. I think we'll pause here. The beginning of the next chapter starts with several verses 1 through 4, of Vyasadeva asking from his guru a few questions. I'll read those questions and we'll pick up next week. Well, I'll be in India. Pick up next time with the answers to those questions. Vyasadeva asks, what did you do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? Right? This is your previous life you're talking about. Then they instructed you, then what did you do when they left? How did you pass your life after initiation? How did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Time annihilates everything in due course, so how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, a long, long time ago, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Okay, and then Narada starts to answer. Hare Krishna. Okay, and we'll conclude our readings for today here. Let's take any reflections or questions or comments on anything you heard. Narada talking about himself, opening up about his past existence.
I'm just sort of tripping out on that, this right here is a manifestation of Krishna.
Yeah.
The Hare Krishna mantra that we say at least 16 times a day, or I do, and we're all trying, most of us are trying to, is an actual deity. I've heard Krishna dancing on your tongue. I've heard things like that said in terms of, saying the mantra, but to actually consider it a deity is just mind blowing.
Yeah. It's humbling. It's humbling. We can't understand Krishna from the conditioned position. He has to extend himself. There has to be a mercy, intervention. There has to be a mercy intervention. And so, particularly in this age, Like, I mean, always, conditioned souls are always conditioned, but like, we really got it bad in this Kali Yuga. We really don't know what we're doing. We're running around in circles, dog chasing its tail, like a drunk stumbling from one experience to another. We're just so confused. And even the like spiritual culture of the Vedas and the Varnashrama system is not really there anymore. So we need to like really help to directly access Krishna. Therefore, the process is made so accessible, so simple. It's actually when you start to realize how simple it is, how directly available Krishna makes himself, like to any and all persons, no matter how bewildered they are. It's actually shocking. It's remarkable, right? Um, in his song Lochan Das Thakur, glorifying Gaura Nitai, he says that I can remember the Bengali. Parama Karuna Pahun Dvija Nitai Gaura Chandra Shabaya Vatara Shar Shiromani Kevalaya Anandakanda. These are they're giving the essence of all spiritual tradition, all spiritual practice. And he says, Deko ore bhai tribhuvanena e mona doyala data, pashu bhaki jure pashana bitare shunijar gunagata. Oh, just look, my brother, just see how merciful they are. That if one even starts to hear about how the extent of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, that they're sharing Krishna in such an easy way, it will make even stones melt and even animals will cry just upon hearing the glorification of the extent of how merciful they are. This process of Sankirtan. It's like ridiculous. It's absurd how Krishna makes it so easy for us. So yeah, I echo that, and it's a sign of advancement because at first we don't even know what we don't know, and then when you start to taste something, you're like, wait a minute, yeah, this is something. You're telling me this is actually a deity? Oh my God! So yeah, oh you're God, oh you're God, exactly. So thank you, Lord Chaitanya. More reflections.
I was really struck by Narada talking about himself because this is
Yeah.
like the basis of all recovery programs. Instead of me saying, you do this, you should do this, you
Right,
should do
right.
that, I tell my story, my experience, strength, and hope to
Totally.
bring it to. And it's exactly what he's doing so that sort of brings Vyas into the place where he's like, okay, no, I really see why this is important for me to really pursue writing about bhakti.
Yeah, there's an expression, what is most personal is most universal, right? Instead of trying to like water everything down, make everything very like general and vague, if you tell what is true and completely authentically true for you, counterintuitively, that's actually the most universal. Even though it's not exactly what everyone is going through, in a way, it's the most relatable thing you can say because it's completely authentic and real. And if it's relevant, it'll actually have some essential truth in it that can be applied for other people that they themselves will take from that story, and that's what's happening here. As happens again and again in Bhagavatam, the whole Bhagavatam is basically aligned with this philosophy of what is most personal is most universal. It's the story of this person and the story of that person, and Kunti Maharani and Bhishma Dev and the gopis and Dhruva and Prahlad and Rishabhadev, and like it's just Bharat Maharaj and Yashoda, and it's just over and over and over again. We walk with these people in their shoes, we feel what they feel, and it's incredibly educational. So much more than it would be for us with our conditioning to hear abstract knowledge. We don't have the qualification to make the same advancement from abstract knowledge as we used to in previous ages. So this is Narada Muni like telling Vyasadeva, but also the pastime of Narada Muni telling Vyasadeva is something that we can really learn from. Which was the whole point. He wanted us to be benefited. So, Hare Krishna. Anything else? A few minutes left. Final comments. Got something in chat. Yeah, Julie's a testimonial. You're on that. Tony says, okay, yeah, it's technical difficulties. Eva says, I'll take a Shamya Shastra sandwich. Yeah. Well, here it is. It's all in the Bhagavatam. Okay, if that's all for now, then we'll end for now. And next week, I will be with Kishori, Krishna willing, in Mayapur, where Lord Chaitanya, started the nucleus of this gigantic, movement. So we'll be with you in the form of the Mahamantra and the Bhagavatam. Please keep reading. Read the rest of the 5th chapter. You can read ahead. In fact, I will challenge you. If you read ahead and then you read it again with me, see if it doesn't get better and better, because it really does. It's not going to get boring. You can read it more than once, I promise. I read the first canto like 5 times. It just never ever gets anything but better. So we'll pause there, and please, please, please reflect in the WhatsApp group. It's life-changing stuff. It's always really powerful. We all appreciate each other's realizations, so keep doing that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. And let's offer our respectful obeisances. Vancha kalpaturupyascha kripasundhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Burlington Bhakti Sangha and beyond ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thanks, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.